have one from this morning. Yeah, Michelle. We don't know anything else, I don't think.
Recording in progress.
All right, welcome everybody to the February 25th Regional Board meeting. I apologize for the late start, but 10 minutes, so it's not too bad. I want to recognize we're holding the meeting on the traditional territory of the Tla'amin Nation. The agenda, I understand there's 2 changes to it. Corporate officer, do you want to address them?
Thank you, Chair. There's 3 changes. There was the late item out of 21.3 today in relation to item 12.1. Additionally, to the consent agenda, there was a motion elevated from the Planning Committee to amend something previously adopted in relation to provincial referral for 2-lot conventional subdivision on 1075 Mead Road in electoral area A. And there was a motion from today's Committee of the Whole for Texada Island Nonprofit Seniors Housing Society that will also be added to the consent agenda.
Thank you very much. Would somebody like to move that amended agenda? Director McCormick, Director Gisborne, all in favor? None opposed, motion carries. Minutes of the regular board meeting February 10th, 2026. Any errors or omissions? No hands. Director Gisborne is making a motion to adopt them. Director Southcott, thank you. All in favor? Carries unanimously. We have 3 items of correspondence. Does anybody see the need, or sorry, 4 items of correspondence. Does anybody see the need to pull any of them to have a motion made in regard to them? Seeing no hands, so we'll move on to the chair's report. February 9th, I had a library meeting, business as usual there, but I did want to draw attention to some of the cool things that they're adding to their collections. I mean, the libraries were never as cool as this one. They got these things called Logo players, so it's like, it's just this little unit and you can get cards for it and you can stick the card in. And I know people are listening to books, audiobooks and stuff on their phones these days, but if you have young kids and you don't want to have them messing around with phones, you can just stick the card in and it reads it off to the child. That's really cool. A heavy duty sewing machine, a couple of pair of binoculars. They've got a thermal imaging scanner, which I understand there's already a wait list for because people want to check out their homes to see what the full drafts are. Some Apple pencils. There's a Cricut Explorer, and if you know what it is, you think it's pretty cool. Crafting and cutting stuff, computer guided, making signs and whatnot. There's a couple of disc golf sets. There's a digital scanner, so if you've got film negatives and slides, you can convert them to computer files. And they've got even a telescope, for goodness sake. So you can check out all these things at the local library. It's just amazing to me what they're adding to their collection down there. On February 11th, I had the Stillwater Community Advisory Group. We went through a lot of the indicators, which is these requirements that Western Forest Products must achieve to maintain a special certification for the lumber that they produce. And we met Sebastian, who's the new representative from Western Forest Products. Darwin has moved on to Campbell River to bigger and better things, I guess, but he was still there as well. On February 19th, I was present for the big announcement out at Tla'amin. It's a big deal for the nation, big deal for our community, and it's going to be really interesting going forward. I was pleased to be invited to such an important event, as were our entire board, which was great. I believe it was said that this move will make the nation the community's largest employer, and the 154,000 hectares that TFL 39 Block 1, I guess I should say what the announcement is, that the nation has taken over Block 39 or TFL 39 Block 1 from Western Forest Products. So they're going to be operating all of Western's and taking over and purchasing all of Western's assets in the area. And the 154,000 hectares that makes up TFL 39 Block 1 means that an additional 43% of the traditional territory of the Tla'amin Nation is back under their control. I believe that brings it up to somewhere around 51% of their traditional territory. So my congratulations to the nation, to all who took part in this momentous acquisition. And on February 21st, I took part, well, I didn't take part, I guess, but I was at the Black History Month celebrations at Dwight Hall. great entertainment, great food, a lot of great people there. And they had a keynote speaker, Dr. Josh Gambaraj, a linguist from UBC, and just had a great address centered on the history of individuals of African ancestry in Canada and the impacts that they have had on our society. So it was a really fun day. We'll go over here to Director Elliott. Start this way first. What do you have for us today?
I was trying to see if I wrote down the date of the next fall in this addition to your information. I don't see it in my little book here, so I don't have that. But I also attended the announcement from Common about the acquisition of Western Forest Products. So obviously that's going to be rolling out some changes in how they engage with our community, and we're looking forward to seeing how that might go. I went last week to Monday I went to the CAT, which followed Friday's meeting of the CAT Education Committee. And at the Education Committee, we learned from the UCAT and from our own Education Committee coordinator who stayed that there's this evening, Wednesday, as part of Black History Month and promotion by the Youth CAT, there's childminding at the Patricia Theater at 7 p.m. They're showing, I got it here. Cinema Politica in partnership with the QCAT is showing Dope is Death. And it's a film about how the Black Panthers and Young Lords combined community health with radical politics to create the first acupuncture detoxification program in America in 1973. And there's a panel discussion afterwards, of which will be part of the whole overall production. Those with children can come, and the youth CAT is providing child minding so that people can attend. And so I encourage people to do that. I have planned to go myself. That was part of what I wanted to promote tonight. And our community action team also decided to support through a letter a study being done, applying for a grant. Our very own Kate Hodgins is applying for a grant to do a study at her own local hospital, which provides data and information on persons who approach hospital with substance use and how their experience is at the hospital, and following up afterwards to determine what the outcomes are there. And so the community action team has wrote a letter of support for her grant application to do that study here in our own hospital. So that happened at the CAT, and that's my report for today.
Great, thank you very much, Director Lennox.
Thanks, Chair. Always stuff going on in Area A. I've been doing a lot of work recently with the London Water Improvement District as the receiver continues to do that hard work to bring the system and the project through, and some interesting potential solutions for water storage that I've talked to other directors about working in the community. So it's pretty exciting, trying to save a substantial amount of money for both Lund, but also any other improvement districts or organizations that could use water storage. So we're going to continue working on that. We've had a recent advisory committee meeting in Lund, and they're working on a public meeting soon to discuss more details as we move ahead. We had a recent CIMAC, that's the Marine Advisory Committee on Savory for the marine facility. We talked, talking about ports and things today. That's one that we have, and that group continues to advocate for several things, working with our staff, and we'll be hearing more about some of their work soon. I appreciate our finance manager, Ms. Greenan, responding to several constituents' questions around taxation when people are paying attention, and I think I forwarded some of the responses to some of the other directors because I just thought it was a great explanation. I learned every time I asked those questions, specifically around why would Area A be different than Savory, say, right? Everybody thinks, oh, it's the same area, same taxation. Not necessarily. I learned more and more about services. So I just wanted to say thanks for that. And my constituents were appreciative of the detailed response, which I couldn't give. The Savory OCP, Official Community Plan Advisory Committee, continues to meet. We went through another meeting this month. Got a couple more in March and April, working our way through the policies of for the committee, and then taking it more public engagement later this year. And we talked a bit about that yesterday at planning. We had some correspondence, so more work to go there. There's been, you may have heard about something, Men's Shed in our area. The Men's Shed is a movement that's underway across Canada. You can look it up online, mensshed.ca. Really what's happened is we've got a constituent of mine who's offered up a huge shop where we can learn things as men and others. We're going to be inviting, but focused on getting men together. Not a lot of us don't have friends, and we're pretty isolated doing what we're doing. So I thought it was generous and really helping men's mental health, really checking in with each other. And if you look into the movement, it's pretty cool. So I'll leave it at that and encourage people to get involved and come on out on Saturdays and other days. I was at Tla'amin Cultural Center for the forestry acquisition announcement. Pretty profound to be again involved with history, literally history in BC for sure. And I really resonated the story of one of their elders. It was in their video presentation of how some of their elders walked up the logging road to get a job at Camp B that's in Stillwater Timberlands. Well, guess what? My dad tells a similar story. So it's very profound to see how common our histories are. And, my dad, I guess, he was an elder. So, I mean, same era, same job, same people working in forestry. So that was very profound. Just recent announcement, EV station in Lund is up and running. Texada as well. I stole your thunder, sorry. But that's excellent. Savory Island Fire Chief has retired, Chief Philpott. Thank you if you're listening. And welcome to Chief Corbett. There was an announcement on that again, just like Northside, long-term fire chief that did, I can't even go into do as much justice to the details of what he's done for his community. So thank you, Chief Philpott. I met with Aaron Gunn last weekend at his office here in town with Director Gisborne and family. So we got to introduce our MP to some young constituents that were running around his office, causing mayhem, but touching on many of the items that you've heard me advocating before that apply federally, and I'll continue to do so. Connected Coast through City West is out in Lund, connecting and splicing fiber optic cables as we speak. So that service will be coming to residents. And I met this morning with Annie Weiss from Sunshine Coast Tourism, really expanding upon ideas that Sunshine Coast and other tourism agencies have been using to take action in our communities, specifically around Savory and Lund for me. Solutions such as seasonal efforts around tourism impact studies, things that we've been hitting, ways that we can achieve the goals, maybe washrooms on Savory. I'm just spitballing, but there's ways to achieve these goals. So we had a great conversation, and you'll be seeing some motions from me in the future. That's it for now.
Okay. I was up in Lund on the weekend, just checking out the new rec center. That's really coming along.
Pretty cool, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. Do you have any date for the?
Oh, you'd have to ask staff, but I think we're on time for maybe an April get together.
Okay.
CAO, I don't know, am I on off base there? I think we'll hear about it, Chair.
We'll hear about it. Okay, sounds good. Director Gisborne.
No, thank you, Chair. I don't have that much going on. So big thanks to Director Lennox for the invitation to meet with Aaron Gunn. It was kind of a last minute thing, and I was
bring the kids.
So of course, a 2-year-old and 4-year-old make quick work of anything that's organized. Just going from current backwards, on the 19th, I was at the Tla'amin Cultural Center for their announcement. Very impactful stuff. Looking forward to seeing how it plays out in the next steps. On February the 3rd, I met with the Paradise Exhibition Park Society as the board representative or the regional district rep. And I just got to tip my hat to such an amazing group out there. They're, of course, making sure different responsibilities for who tests the water to make sure that the water is, potable and working, because, it's one well and they've got multiple user groups there. So they actually do kind of like a rotation for who's responsible and who's doing the testing. And, they're a very diligent group. And what else? Oh, yeah. I believe they're moving forward to get the Quonset hut where the winter market occurs to actually get that floor paved with concrete, because if you've ever been in there in the winter and the ground's all uneven and there's random rocks here and there, it's a great tripping hazard. So they're not quite at the point of pouring concrete, but they've gotten some grants and they're just, getting into the next steps. And then another one, which is, also exciting news, and this is when I talk about community groups working together. I was informed that the Rotary Club of Powell River and the Trail Riders Club are partnering up to renovate their clubhouse. That's at the Paradise Exhibition Park. So the Rotary Club is providing, I think they've already got $5,000 set aside, but they're also going to be applying volunteer labor to go in there and fix it up. And I think someone we all know and love, Mac Fraser, he's gone out there with some very knowledgeable folks, and they took a look at the whole building and they said, well, the bones are good. It just needs, well, I'm not sure if you guys have ever been in there. It's a little sad inside, but apparently the bones are good. So they're going to be doing some renovations on it to bring it up into 2025, 2026 era. So for those of you that don't know, I believe it was built in 1970 or something like that. So it's an old building. Needs a bit of love. So I just wanted to tip my hat to the Rotary Club, because they've done lots of works in a number of our regional parks. I think Palm Beach and Shelter Point, and lovely to see them up at Paradise Exhibition Park working with the trail riders. I'm sure I've missed some other things, but I'm just going to keep it at that. Thank you, Chair.
I'm just trying to think, but that's kind of a single story, sort of a long building. Is it red?
It's when you're driving down Paget, and on the left-hand side, you see a building just in the trees there, closest to the fire hall. That's the building. Right. That's that. So anyone that's done their firearms safety training, that's where I did the course. I'm sure they still hold it there as well. Okay. But yeah, you go in there and you're like, man, this is an old building. Needs a little love.
We never, for some reason recently, we
went on the tour.
We walked by it, but we didn't go into it.
Okay. Yeah. Anyway, thanks very much. We'll go with Director Fall up on the screen.
Thank you, Chair. I have just a couple things to report on. On February the 17th, City West held a virtual public meeting on Lasqueti. Well, they weren't on Lasqueti. They couldn't come, but it was very well attended. It's something I've reported on before. Our CAO and myself met with some City West folk and to help organize it. They originally wanted to have an in-person meeting, but that was just challenging when I was explaining to them the logistics of the ferry, which meant an overnight stay for them and so on. So it was very well attended. There were over 35 connections from Lasqueti, which I estimated over 50 people, maybe 60 people. Most of them had at least 2 people. Some of them had more. We're all very impressed that the City West showed up in force. So we had the CEO, Stefan Willausen, who I think most of us have met. But they also had their chief operating officer, their chief technology officer, director of sales and marketing, and their director of projects. So there were 5 of their top brass there, which was really appreciated by the Lasqueti public. And there were 2 representatives from the province. They didn't say anything. Most people didn't notice, but they were watching. Lasqueti, it has been, some aspects have had some controversy, but it was actually relatively unified. And the one message that they heard, the unifying message, was basically the strong support for all of the island. So they had proposed part of the island, and that was because that didn't need power. They could power about halfway or 2/3 of the island with power from Vancouver Island. And really, one of the strong messages or unifying messages is, if you're going to do it all, because that makes it otherwise difficult for the remainder. The Lasqueti Internet Access Society with wireless and so on becomes kind of maybe dysfunctional or hard, fragmented. Don't leave anyone out. Bring it all. And, the amusing part was when people were asking about power, what the power for that would look like. And one thing you can say about Lasquetians is they're relatively well informed, and they're not afraid to speak about things. So there was a whole side discussion going on the whole meeting, or not the whole meeting, a lot of it about power, because they are really grilling probably the chief technology officer about the power requirements. And there's, is that kilowatts per hours, or is that per day? Is that the amount for the day, or is that ongoing or continuous, and on and on. And it was quite amusing to watch, because he didn't get away with asking just simple answers. We have some really experts on off-grid technology, as you might guess, probably more expertise than City West has, so they were held to that. But it was a very good meeting. There were, you know, hour and a half of questions. They had a short presentation, and then it was just lots of questions and very civil, which I was very happy with. That's potential funding that I believe may be provincial, so it's not coming through these federal projects. If there is funding, they're going to go back and relook at the project, see if they can, you know, what it might be for the whole island, and you know, we'll see what happens. But you know, there's possibility. There's still a glimmer of hope that something might happen. On the 19th of February, I met with the Coastal Invasive Species Committee, had their regular Q1 meeting. And last weekend, the Vancouver Island Regional Library had their AGM and meeting, which they always do in person. They have one, you know, in-person meeting per year. There's 39 representatives, so it's kind of hard to bring everyone down from, you know, from Souk up to Haida Gwaii. I went over there. I got an extra night because the ferry going back got canceled, which was, you know, turned a 3-hour meeting into a 3-day meeting, but that's how it is. It was very good. The and you know, the chair spoke, you know, very well about what the Powell River or the Qathet Regional Library is doing. Vancouver Island Regional Library, who they communicate quite a lot together. I think they're also rolling out a lot of these different alternative sources of collections, like things they can offer, because libraries really see themselves as central to the community. It's not just a bunch of books. They're community spaces providing community services that are freely available. The only really free indoor service that's provided in communities, and they're really important. I think librarians take that very seriously. But it was a very good AGM, and you know, there's a new leadership on the board, and we'll see where it goes from there. But I'll leave it there. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Director Powell. I gotta ask, do you have teleservice yet, or is it still?
Oh, yes. I should have given that update. Yes, magically out of the blue, TELUS guy, not the day they said he would come, the TELUS service repair person just showed up last week, spent all day. So he was over their plane. I don't know if anyone heard about this, but their plane crashed last summer at Lasqueti, approaching Lasqueti. I think the wheels weren't lifted, and when it hit the water, it flipped over, and it actually was tied to the dock. It's a bit of out of commission because it sat there in the salt water for a little while. So they don't have all their planes. They sent, so it's hampered their ability to serve community. But the guy spent all day at our place. He sent his apologies to the other people on this list, and he managed to get our phone going. So I do have phone service back since September. So it's good.
I was just gonna make the comment that it's when regular phone service is so challenging to maintain, that's why people show so much interest in good, reliable, high-speed internet, because it keeps us connected.
Absolutely. And the City West answered, you know, I mean, if phone can run on the connected coast fiber optic, and so that's one of the values of providing it everywhere, you know, that really sticking together and trying to promote this idea the whole community can have it. That would make the replacement easier to serve, and it would also, you know, eliminate this really difficult phone line that we have, because it's amazing. It's an old phone line. It's really challenging, and yeah, the service and the parts they don't even make the parts for it anymore. It's so old. They basically get salvaged from other places that are downgrading. So you know, we don't really know what's going to happen. But actually one of the things the guy that I think City West confirmed, TELUS is still on the hook to provide landline. Landline is a essential service, and even with the fiber optic, doesn't get TELUS off the hook to provide landline service somehow. So, you know, ideally they'd work together, but they're competitors. So I don't know how that works. They might have to do something later.
Thanks for the update. Director McCormick.
Thank you. And Chair, I'll be pretty brief for me. Good news at the park, the EV chargers have been installed, and so far I've only had one serious complaint. This is good. And I think that will be easily resolved. Through a connection at the preschool, I heard some very interesting news that I would like to share. There are now 30 kids under 5 on Texada. Now, that's more than our school population has been for quite a long time. So it's very exciting in terms of the future and what the census later this year is going to show, because I think our demographics are starting to hopefully balance out a little bit, which is great news. On the 23rd, which was Monday, I guess, I attended the Tourism Powell River board meeting, and they are doing a new logo, and they're working with different designs to incorporate the trees and the ocean and come up with something that is unique. They're also looking at having the logo printed on t-shirts that they are in the process of ordering, but they're not going to order till the logo has been finally approved. But they're going to come up with patches and keychains and kind of come up with a whole new line of product merchandise that they're going to promote at the visitor information center. So yeah, that's my report. Thank you.
That is a brief taxation report.
Next month will be very different.
Okay, we look forward to it. Turkey South Cut.
Thank you, Chair. Not to repeat various things that I attended that others here have already spoken to. So I just want to shout out to Synergy and Ty Hallman particularly. The waste to resource continual training there. Networking is going on in this community with the Resource Recovery Center as a focus point for that. Networking between various businesses here, I get the impression that the work that they're doing for the RD is having some real results. There's a lot of enthusiasm among some of the local businesses to support each other in moving resources around. I won't go into detail, but it's really, I'm really happy to see that. Men's Shed is international. It also is probably about the 8th different group that I'm aware of in this town. And there was only one here when I came back here 20 years ago. Men's groups, if you will, that are really focusing on men's health. So as a past healthcare provider and involved with men's work, if you will, for many years, I'm a profound believer, or my belief is profound in how effective this kind of work actually is, targeting mental health in our community. And there's a big need amongst men, and it is being filled ground up. It's just wonderful. So I didn't make it to that because I was doing something else. But so glad to hear it. It's in your area too.
I brought Mark too. I brought Mark too.
Oh, did you? Awesome. Yeah, really healthy. Lots of ratepayers groups, and I'll just mention that our MLA is turning up to, she's really engaged with this community, which is particularly heartening. The last meeting I was at where she attended, and Tracy, was sponsored by Westview Ratepayers, but they had invited all sorts of different organizations, and many, yeah, they're there too. Yeah, so kudos to her, and so grateful for that interaction. She really listens to people, and it's very heartening. Yeah, Black History Month, CAT team and education team. Last thing I'll mention is North Island 911. We had a 5-minute special board meeting 2 days ago. Took about 20 minutes to get this going. But I really enjoy being a part of that because it's such an effective organization, and it represents their services, kind of ahead of the edge of the development into the new generation 911 service. And this was just a budget change, something really quick like that to keep that momentum going. Yeah, so just hats off to that organization, and I'm glad to sit on it and representing this local government. Tla'amin is now a full member, and that they are the 8th member to sit on the board. So that's Eric Blaney, who represents the nation. They're a pretty small member comparatively, but it's an even vote across the board, and very respected, and then First Nation on that board. Thank you, Chair.
No problem. Great. Okay, so let's, Dr. Elliott, yeah.
Permission to talk about an event I forgot to announce.
Okay, go ahead.
Chamber of Commerce's Business Awards Gala is this Saturday at Dwight Hall, and tickets usually are purchased through the Chamber of Commerce, which they have their own phone number that goes to their manager, and she answers it. So if you haven't got your tickets to the Chamber of Commerce Business Awards Gala yet, you still have time between now and Friday. and if you phone them, they may have be able to hold them at the door for you to do as well. I've done that in the past, and it starts from, they start accepting people into the hall around 5:30, dinner's served a little bit later than that, and they generally like you to phone ahead so they know where to put people at tables and so forth.
Okay, great, thanks very much. Moving on to the consent agenda, does anybody want to pull anything off? If not, would somebody like to move it? Mr. Gisborne, Director McCormick, all in favor? Here's unanimous. Moving down to resolutions. Recommendation in front of us. There's A, B, and C. Staff to include requisition of $350,885 in draft 3 of the 2026 budget for the sub-regional recreation contribution service. So we'd like to move that. I'll move it. Did anybody second it? Yeah, that's what I thought so. Okay, the seconder for Director Elliott. Discussion? Director Elliott?
Thank you. So I just wanted to bring forward the information from the Regional Recreation Services report that I think is quite relevant for the discussion on this motion. And if you go to the page called Challenges with the Current Funding Model, these are things the city will be bringing to the table when they have the opportunity to discuss the new agreement and negotiate a few things. So we're not here to negotiate. I just wanted to point out that the issues that they brought forward as being challenges with the current funding model would need some room and a mandate to negotiate around. The numbers that the staff put out indicate that floor area is not actually the way to divide costs, since swimming pools are extremely expensive to run compared to empty spaces. and so by doing that in that way, we've made it really unfair to city taxpayers with the way the current model is. And the hope is that these negotiations would have a mandate to negotiate a new agreement based on actual costs for what it is you're participating in.
I think we're getting off the topic here.
Yeah, so the motion is to give the maximum amount of mandate to the negotiating parties for which they would negotiate an agreement and come to some other number than what they've been doing in the past. And so I believe that by not passing this motion and making it some other number, you're pre-deciding what they can negotiate in the agreement. And I just think it would not be fair to city taxpayers for that to happen.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other comments? Director Gisborne? Followed by Director Southcott.
I'll actually pass the floor to Director Southcott.
I call on you, go ahead.
Okay, thanks. All right. This is the maximum amount that is allowed under the service establishment bylaw. And as I said at the Finance Committee, there isn't really any other service that we just move to the max. I really do believe in the old saying, be clear is kind. And I guess the question I would have for the other directors is, what is the amount that they would like to see if there was no requisition limit? Like, because I do recall a couple of years ago, there was a request to the regional district to increase to the maximum amount and ask for the minister to increase the requisition limit. So that's a big question I have is, if there was no requisition limit, what would the number be? Is anyone willing to answer that question?
I don't believe anybody can answer that question.
So I can say the amount that I would be comfortable with, and that is the number that is based on the formula that was presented to the electorate when the service was created by referendum. But that's not what is being respected around this table. And that's why a service review is triggered. So I've been clear on to what number I think is appropriate. And I keep hearing around this table that that's not high enough. So my question is, how much do the other directors want? Because this is the maximum. If we ask for the ministry later on, say, well, we hit the maximum last year, can we increase it? How much does the city want?
Okay, Director Southcott?
Thank you, Chair. I referenced page 11 on the attachment in 21. 51.3, I think it is, and I just have one very short comment, and that is that I regard this motion as a good faith motion.
Okay, did I see your hand up as well, Director Elliott again? Okay, anybody else want to speak on this before we go to a second round? Director Elliott? Oh, sorry, let me go to Director Lennox, he has not
So
spoken.
you can go Director Elliott first if you want.
Well,
I just wanted to respond to the point that Director Gisborne raised, and that is that, the formula is somehow reflective of actual fair cost. And what I would like to see is fair cost based on actual costs. And what was negotiated in the previous agreements is not in the bylaw, isn't necessarily the best way to figure that out. So what we're looking for over at the city is something a little more fair than what we've been getting. And that is because it's unfair to taxpayers in the city to continue with an agreement
again, we're getting off
that
topic.
is wrong, or is hurting them, or is not equitable. And so in order to have those negotiations,
We're getting off topic here, we've got a motion.
okay, I don't think it is off.
I get to decide that.
Okay, sorry, Chair. I guess my point is in order to have negotiations where we discuss this, we can't do it here, we have to actually do that negotiations. And limiting those discussions here isn't in good faith, in my opinion. So I would like a mandate from the budget for the city to adequately represent themselves and their interests through negotiation. If it works out that it never moves at all, and the actual expenditure is based on the old formula that doesn't quite do it, then that's for negotiations, not for here, not for us to decide at this point.
And remember, you're directing your comments.
Yes.
Chair, I was confused.
That's
That's a really good
Director
point.
Lennox.
Thanks, Chair. I think that's a good point to reinforce periodically. I'm hearing a lot about good faith. I think we're just really putting the cart before the horse here. I'm hearing two things that are in opposition. The service review is established to determine all of this, literally why we put it together, what should be the formula, what should be the funds. Then we get information from the city. We actually, the three areas decide. This is actually preemptive strike, saying that we're gonna ask for the max. That's actually the part of the negotiation. Whatever, you just said it, whatever, sorry, Director Elliott just said, whatever comes out of negotiations will in the end be the agreement. Well, again, this is basically saying, well, we don't care what the service review committee want, we're gonna ask for the max, and then you can work backwards if that's what you want. So again, we have a service review established, let it do its work. Should we have been meeting more frequently? Yes, and I'm prepared to meet. We have some meetings scheduled soon, but very simple to me, that's why we have a service review.
Okay, before I call on Director Gisborne again, because I'm already, I'm just gonna make a comment. The way I read this is that this gives us the option to go as much as we want to, the three of us, areas A, B, and C, in negotiations with the city. Any monies left over can be transferred into the next year as a surplus. I think it just keeps options open. I understand fully the concept of that we're getting the cart ahead of the horse, but it's not really, that's not really the truth. It's not like we are settling on a number of 350 and before we have the negotiations. It's just giving us the options to go to that point if we want to. So I would have liked to have had these discussions prior to the budget coming up. It didn't work that way, but I think we also don't want to hamstring ourselves. Director Gisborne.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just gonna bring everyone up to speed. Service review was triggered. Actually, I'm gonna go from the document that.
Let's remember, we've got a motion in front of us. Please
Yes.
stick to the motion itself,
Yes.
including a requisition of 350,885. So we don't need to go the whole history of the service reviews. We're discussing this motion, okay?
Well, this is, the 350,000 is for requisition. It's not actually for disposition to the city. So when we requisition $350,000, That money can go to the city. It can go to a negotiating arbitrator or a consultant. It could go to paying for a referendum to pull out of the service. So I think all of those things are relevant and on the table. Am I incorrect in that understanding, Chair? So if the service review fails,
I was gonna ask the CAO if that makes sense, or.
Through the chair. I believe that Director Gisborne is referring to a service review pullout. I'm not so certain that that would be borne by areas A and C. But I'm sure we can work that out afterwards. And the amount that's there would give A, B, and C negotiation room without limiting how many funds could be delivered, potentially delivered to the city if there was a successful negotiation, because negotiations could always go south and nothing happens.
Very true.
The other point is it could very well be that if you land on the prescribed formula and don't budge from that, that amount is less than this maximum position. So there are a lot of things up in the air, and I think it's just a matter of determining whether or not anybody wants to agree to this number or not. I think that's the question right now.
Okay, thank you. Director Gisborne, you want to continue?
yeah, I think the CAO answered my question, and I believe 356 of the Local Government Act states costs incurred by a party in respect to their own participation in a service review or service withdrawal may be recovered only as follows. So as I understand, the cost recovery is the same for service review and service withdrawal. Now, I'm not saying I'm putting forward service withdrawal at this time. My question was also not specific to service withdrawal. The question more for the chair is, and to the staff of, this is setting a budget amount, so it doesn't just cover what goes potentially to the city, it covers everything that the service covers, right? And so if our service review says, hey, we need to hire someone because we don't want, to use up all of Director Paul's time as we kind of go back and forth with the city, and maybe we want to hire someone, that would come out of the service, and that would come out of that $350,000.
The chair, I'm not so certain on that, and I may enlist our corporate officer because I believe we had budgeted specific funds for any of that work outside of the negotiations.
Corporate officer?
Thank you through the chair. I'm just trying to access that file, but I believe we had 10,000 put into the 2025 budget for this work.
We still have it.
Yes. And then with regards to how that can be used, I would just need to do more research based on the request that we are doing. Like it would just need to be applicable to the task at hand.
Yeah,
through the chair. And we would have to verify this, but I'm leaning towards that any of the monies in this requisition would only be applicable to the contribution service. And right now, what this contribution service feeds is a contract or an agreement between the QRD and the city. So I think there's a direct correlation there that the funding is only for whatever is negotiated for. If nothing's negotiated, it just sits there.
okay.
But if we do have additional costs associated with the service, such as the service review going over that amount, that would affect this $350,000. That's my understanding.
Yeah, go ahead.
Through the chair, we'd have to investigate that further, but I don't believe so. I believe we would be running a deficit in whatever we had already allocated as far as budgeting numbers for that, for the service reviews to take place.
Okay, so just so I understand, when we go back to our service review meeting, we could even propose a budget amendment for the next finance committee meeting if that. This is definitely the issue with the cart before the horse that the other directors are talking about. Because My challenge is I'm being constrained on what I can talk about, but the motion itself is a requisition for the sub-regional recreation contribution service. It's not actually specific to giving the money to the city, it's for the service itself. Okay, so now, Chair, can I speak to the questions and issues I wanted to bring up? Now that I've got clarification on that.
I mean, you can start, but I want you to stay on this motion, because this could go down a rabbit hole and be stuck here for half an hour. I don't
With all
want.
due respect, I want to stay on this motion too.
Okay.
And that's why I wanted clarification on what this motion covers, which.
Well, let's go ahead and see where you're going.
Okay, so the service review was triggered in December of 2024. We really didn't get underway at the until the beginning of 2025. We requested that the city council meet with us in relation to the constant request to increase the requisition to the maximum amount every year. That request was April of 2025. According to this document in front of us, it says December 10th. This information was not risen and reported until last Thursday. So yes, I would love to have met more frequently, but the information that was requested last March, we requested city council meet with us in April, didn't get published to the public until last Thursday. Now, yes, we can keep meeting about it. So don't blame the service review for these delays. I'm trying to hammer away at it. Now that we've got the information in front of us, there's some challenges with it. For example, it talks about the background, it goes from 2006 to 2019, but it doesn't mention the 2018 referendum, which is the whole reason this service exists. When we take a look further on, and it talks about the background, it says 2024 QRD agreed to and contributed $234,000. That was actually one of the things included in the service review. The board didn't actually approve that funding, but the money went anyways. 2025, there's also an issue. It says QRD passed a motion to contribute $238,244,000 for 2025. We didn't pass that motion. We ended up referring it back to the finance committee, and then we altered it to $240,000 and put a stipulation on it that we wouldn't release that funding until the city council came and met with us. We did that on December the 11th. So I got a few issues there. One of the other nice things about this is it's pointed out that the arena and the rink can't really be separated from each other easily when it comes to costs. But I used floor area to do just
We're
that.
getting deep into this again. What we're really looking at is a number here. Do we want to have this number be?
That's the formula.
Okay, go ahead, get this formula.
Well, if we were to use the ice rink and the arena and then use a floor area ratio, you don't actually get the numbers that you come up with challenges with current funding model, because they show here that the ice rink is $447,000, while the arena is $546,000. If you actually do a floor area comparison between the two, you actually end up with the ice rink at $372,000 and the arena at $621,000. But this document actually shows no justification for why those numbers are different. It's, these numbers are what were presented to us by the city. If we were to use just the formula that was agreed to during the referendum, it comes out to about $243,000 as a contribution. So to put $350,000 kind of before us and say, hey, this is what we're going to start with our negotiating, I think that's kind of in bad faith, because then if our negotiating group and our service review group goes back and says, hey, we would like to stick to the formula for the next 5 years, we'd like to adjust it for inflation and population changes, then the city's going to go, well, hold on, didn't you pass a motion for $350,000? Why is it now going down to $242,000? I don't think that's negotiating in good faith. I think we should almost postpone this issue until our financial plan draft 3. Like, to be completely honest, this was, a really rushed motion, and it came before the assembly before this information was even available to us at the finance committee. This is what I was actually talking about at the finance committee. I said, I want this information to talk about it in public. It wasn't there. It passed the finance committee anyways. And now here it is before us at the board. And it's not a decision amongst the entire board. It's a decision amongst A, B, and C. And 2 directors didn't support it at the finance committee. So I guess the question to our corporate officer is, can we send this back to finance committee, or is that procedurally inappropriate, or should we postpone this until budget adoption in March, because our service review meetings are going to happen by the end of the third week of March, I hope, knock on wood.
Corporate officer, do you have any comment on that?
Thank you through the chair. The finance committee has already considered the question, so debate would be pretty limited if it was referred back there, because the limits of debate follow. So it would really have to be understand the reason behind referring it back there.
New information.
Okay, thank you, corporate officer. Any other comments on this? Director Fall.
Thank you, Chair. And I don't want to tip any scale here, especially since I'm the facilitator of the service review, but as chair of the finance committee, I thought I would just mention a couple things that may be bearing on this. So the motion itself is about requisition. And then there's some questions, I was looking back at the finance, in our draft 2, we can see exactly what that service includes. So whatever the number that would be agreed to, that shows up as revenue, as requisition, as one of the sources of revenue. And in fact, this service only has that source of revenue. So that would be the only source of revenue. As has been discussed, but to put it in my mind as clearly as possible, that could be used for any eligible expenses. And the 2 expenses right now, or the 3 expenses, are operating agreements, so transfers to the city, other expenses, which is actually only got a value this year, and that's for the service review, supporting service review. And the third is administration overhead, so a little bit of an overhead cost that all of our services have. I would just like to point out there is no reserves, so we don't have there's no statutory or non-statutory reserve associated with this service, which means that if there is any surplus, so if the amount put in the requisition is more than could be agreed to, then there would be a surplus, and that surplus would have to be transferred as revenue for the subsequent year. That would be the only option, because there's no reserve. There wouldn't be an option to put it aside. If the, and if the future negotiations result in less than what is available, there's also no reserve to draw on. So that would mean that it couldn't go above, at least for that year, you wouldn't be able to reach the negotiated amount, because it just wouldn't be there in the requisition. So this is a chicken and egg situation. I don't think it's helpful to talk about, well, which one should have come first. We are where we are. Ideally, ideally things would move along. There's the annual budget cycle that's interacting with the negotiation and the service review. So I think, it's really up to the 3 that vote on this, whether you want to have, a higher requisition amount, so there's flexibility, providing an upper limit, or whether you want to constrain that at some lower level and choose to increase it in the following year. I would just say that, I guess it's really about how you want to move that forward. We are I'm trying to set up a service review meeting in the next month or so. I don't know if that gets, in time of the budget. I mean, that's where we really got to be careful, because of the time frame, if there's time to put this off. But really, it's a decision for the 3 participants who vote on this of what that level should be. But really, just to point out, there is no reserve, so there's no that actually makes this a much more rigid decision, because the amount will determine what is possible for this year. One other little suggestion or idea: if there's a openness to go for a higher level than is in our current budget right now, one option would be to include additional language to make clear that that's, just to clarify that that's actually revenue for the service this year. That's not the amount that automatically goes to the expense item of transfer to the city. That shows up as revenue, and it's yet to be determined what happens with that, whether it would be, transferred entirely or in part, and then whatever's left over is surplus. That could be added as language. Anyways, I just wanted to add those comments. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Good negotiations take longer than what it takes to get the budget approved, and land at a number that is higher than what is approved in the budget, but within the amount we're trying to get approved in the budget. What happens for the qathet regional district's ability to pay whatever the negotiated settlement value is?
Yeah.
Through the chair, that's a good question. Logically, I would expect that you could potentially postpone the amount owed to the following year and requisition it then. Might be able to consider, and we'd have to check this out, a board resolution to overspend. I think that one might be a little difficult, as I know for a fact that we are generally limited to what we can spend unless it's an emergency. So there would be ways and means to accommodate it, but I'm gonna say the longest outlook would be to pay back, depending on how quick it was negotiated, would be determined by what time of the year it was in order to reach the year end and then requisition it then.
Okay, so it doesn't necessarily constrain what could be agreed to, but it does make it a little harder.
I would say, yes.
Okay, thank you very much. So the way I'm looking at it is that we can continue with the 350,885 in there, and then go to negotiations. If the negotiations result in the areas A, B, and C paying less than this amount, then the surplus would carry over to the next year, 2027. So then you would have a smaller requisition then. And we would not be hamstrung in negotiations. The other, at this time, the other option is to go for a lesser number and either negotiate within that amount, or if an amount is decided upon that is higher than that, then we have to jump through some hoops, but that may be possible. The way I see it, I guess I'm more in favor of just going for the higher number, being on the safe side, keep things easy. And then if we do not go to that amount, and I'm certainly not at this point or at this table advocating for that, because that's not the discussion to be having right now. It just gives us the freedom to do so without having to concern ourselves with how we would deal with the repercussions. So seeing no other hands, and this is only an A, B, and C vote, we've got one recommendation in front of us. I'm going to call the question on this one.
I'm gonna move that we postpone this until the March 18th board meeting.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to postpone. Is there discussion on motion to postpone? Yeah, of course. I'm very headed.
Motion, like restricted in vote 2, or is it a different vote?
Corporate officer? Is everybody, or you're muted?
Thank you. I could not hear Director Elliott.
Is the vote to postpone also restricted to just areas A, B, and C?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Director Gisborne?
Yeah, like I mentioned, I believe, knock on wood, our service review meeting should be meeting before the 18th. And I think by postponing this until the 18th, we take the cart and put it to the side until we get our horse.
Okay, is that going to cause any problems with meeting our deadlines for submitting a budget? I don't think so, but.
I think that it is, we will be able to take direction from that meeting, and I just have to make sure we're meeting at the end of the month. I believe we are in March as well. Just let me check quickly. Yes, thank you. We're meeting on the 25th.
Okay, so I see Ms. Lily's on the call here. Do you have any comments to make on that concept of postponing this motion?
That didn't
answer
work.
the question.
That didn't work.
Sorry, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Sorry, through the chair. Yeah, no worries about that. We can just bring it to the next meeting and it'll be fine.
Thank you very much. All right, so we have a motion to postpone. Call the question. All in favor? None opposed? Motion carries. Postpone. Okay, question period. Mr. Galinsky.
Hello, Chair. Thanks for the opportunity. I'm wondering if the corporate officer can send me the 2 items that were added to today's consent agenda.
Officer, she's nodding.
Yes.
He's nodding. I see that. Thank you, Chair. I really appreciate that.
No problem. Anything else?
That's it, Chair. Thank you.
Okay. So we have no rise reports. We've reached the end of our agenda, so we are adjourned. Thank you. Thanks for joining us, everybody.
Thank you.
2 years later.